Part 1. The Forgotten Signal. The Seric system basked under the cold radiance of twin moons, its planetary spires reaching so high they seemed to pierce the stars. The Galactic Union had not seen war in over 600 years. Peace was institutionalized, sterilized, and broadcasted across networks in every civilized tongue. They had grown soft, content, arrogant. In the middle of Senate Session 882B, a transmission cut through the serene orchestral hum of diplomacy. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't you. It was raw, glitching, and analog. A voice spoke. "This is Earth. Signal 09 read, we are alive, and we remember." The Senate erupted in laughter. Earth, a myth, a ghost world, a death world. Some said, but those were tales told to frighten Academy cadets. It had been wiped from the charts centuries ago, abandoned after the last purge, when the Union declared it unfit for civilization. No one expected the signal to be real. High Chancellor Uric Thal chuckled as he leaned back in his throne of polished thalamite, waving a dismissive hand toward the terrified communication officer. "Do not fear, old ghosts. Officer, let it pass." But the officer didn't move. His fingers trembled over his console, because the signal hadn't ended. It had evolved. Static turned to a low rhythmic pulse, a frequency the system hadn't heard in centuries. Heartbeat. It was mimicking a human heart. That night, the stars dimmed above Serok, and 3 black ships appeared in the Outer Rings Island, unmarked and massive. Orbit unseen. Orbital Command Station, once hailed as the most advanced in the quadrant, went dark in 17 seconds. No energy weapon was fired, no fleet was detected, only a scream. One final transmission before silence swallowed the grid. There inside the station, they're not like us. They cut cameras, caught glimpses. A black armored figure walking through zero gravity, untouched by gunfire. A serrated blade humming with crimson plasma, slicing through air like silk. A voice, speaking in ancient Earth dialects. Target designated. Phase 1 complete. Panic spread. Military reserves were scrambled, but Sarek's defenses were built for diplomacy, not death. Their soldiers hadn't fired a live round in over a century. By dawn, all 3 black ships had entered low atmosphere. One parked directly over the Senate Hall. Chancellor Thal meets them. The Chancellor stood surrounded by his trembling ministers. All feeds were hijacked. Every screen, every holograph, every transmission all now played the same image, a pair of glowing red eyes in a black visor. "You erased Earth," the voice said. "You enslaved our people. You fed on our pain. But Deathworlders don't die easy." The Senate chamber doors blew inward with such force that the marble walls cracked. Through smoke and chaos stepped a figure clad in dark biomech armor, 8 feet tall, covered in battle scars. His chestplate bore the sigil of a wolf, burned, not painted. He moved like gravity was afraid of him. Behind him, 2 more stepped forward. One floated, her body thin, hair white, her eyes glowing with ancient Earth runes. "A hybrid, a creation." She whispered, "I sent the signal." The Chancellor fell to his knees. Part 2. "We woke the ones you left in the dark. They didn't just erase Earth from the maps. They erased its people, experimented, modified, discarded. And they thought the silence meant victory. But deep beneath the crust of a forgotten Union moon, in prison labs sealed by lies and time, something stirred. The Vault Moon, Sector X13. They called it Hollow Mercy. An old research installation, orbiting the blue dwarf star Set 9, locked by ancient security codes no one had used in centuries. Only one woman remembered it, Dr. Lyra Vale, once a brilliant xenogeneticist from Earth, kidnapped, modified, turned into a hybrid of human and quantum AI. Her body was carved with runes of knowledge, stolen from over 700 species. Her mind a prison of rage and memory. She had waited 83 years in silence until the Deathworlders came for her. Cade Raz lands. The atmosphere around Hollow Mercy cracked like a scream. Commander Cade Raz, leading the elite squad Graveborn, landed through fire and ion storms. His boots hit the black rock as energy fields flickered and sirens screamed their final warnings. "Target, Vault, located," his lieutenant said. Cade raised his fist. "Breach." Within seconds, his team tore through the first 10 security gates like they were paper. Inside the main vault, hundreds of stasis pods lined the walls, each one containing a survivor. Twisted, broken, altered. These were the forgotten of Earth, taken by the Union, used for experimentation, and buried alive in frozen sleep. She opened her eyes. Pod number 09 Alpha suddenly hissed. The blue mist evaporated. She stepped out slowly. Lyra Vale, her skin shimmered with nanoglyphs glowing across her arms, spine, and throat. Her eyes no longer human, burned violet with knowledge that didn't belong to this galaxy. She looked at Cade. Did the stars answer? Cade knelt. They screamed when we came. She smiled, and the floor began to shake. The unforgiven, awakened Lyra lifted her hand, and every remaining pod hissed open in unison. Men, women, even children, humans, twisted by science, by cruelty, by betrayal, rose. Some had steel fused into their bones. Some had tentacles where arms once were. Some glowed. Some floated. All remembered. She turned to them. You were told you were weapons. Monsters. Mistakes. She clenched her fist, and the entire room pulsed. Now you're soldiers. Now you're Deathworlders. Now we burn the ones who buried us. Meanwhile, on SERAC. High Chancellor Tho watched as Union fleets attempted to flee. Ships collided mid-orbit. Engines exploded. Civilians screamed. Every sensor now detected the impossible. Thousands of ships approaching from Earth's quadrant ships, once believed annihilated. But they weren't regular fleets. They were ghost ships, no signatures, no heat trails, powered by technology the Union never understood. At the front of the fleet, a superweapon called the Black Haloa, ring-shaped vessel, capable of erasing planetary atmos, Perth, and every Deathworlder had the same emblem burned on their chest. Remember, Earth, last seen hybrid fury back on Hollow Mercy. Lyra looks toward the sky. She whispers to the stars, you took our home. Now we'll turn your skies into smoke. The survivors march behind her, twisted, scarred, beautiful, unstoppable. Cade walks beside her, locking his plasma rifle. Where to? Lyra smiles. Back to the ones who forgot what fear tastes like. They won't forget again. Asterisk part 3. They laughed at the old flag. Then it rose from the ashes. They called Earth extinct. They called our banner a relic. They mocked our blood, our memory, our pain. But when the old flag rose again, the galaxy finally remembered who we are. Union broadcast. Day 3 of siege. All Union worlds are hereby ordered to prepare for surrender. The Chancellor's voice was shaking. A live transmission beamed across 200 member systems. Behind him, smoke drifted through the once sterile Senate chamber, now cracked and scorched from orbital fire. Civilians screamed in the background. Soldiers mutinied. Entire fleets deserted. And above them hung like a death sentence was the image of the Earth flag, blackened at the edges, torn, scorched, scarred but still rising. A lone wolf embroidered at its center and across its folds. The words in every tongue we remember. Lyra's message to the galaxy. Dr. Lyra Vale stood on the bridge of the Deathworlder command ship, Ravager Prime. Her eyes burned violet, her voice cracked planets. This message is not for the Union leaders, she said. This is for every forgotten slave, every stolen child, every human stripped of name, body, and voice. You are not lost. You are not broken. Earth remembers you. She raised the old flag behind her. And now the galaxy will too. Rise of the Fireborn. From the black storms of the Veil Nebula, Earth's forgotten war clans emerged. The Scorch Legion guerrillas bred in Mars caves, exiled after the uprising. The Shadahan Division, orbital drop troopers who vanished during the Titan Rebellion. The Children of Dust, mutants left behind when Earth's core split during the climate wars. The Union thought them wiped out. But they had simply waited. Now their ships came screaming across Union skies, painted in ash and steel, engines howling like banshee, and every one of them flew the old flag. Attack on the Arc Citadel. The Arc Citadel was the Union's pride, fortified beyond belief, armed with solar lances and orbital shields. Commander Cade Raz led the assault personally. He didn't bring a fleet. He brought 12 Fireborn, 12 humans each, modified each, enhanced each, a walking extinction event. They dropped from orbit without ships free-falling, in scorched exo armor like burning gods, descending to claim judgment. Union soldiers screamed, weapons useless. Cade kicked through the front gate like it was plywood. One soldier tried to surrender. Cade caught him midair and whispered, "You laughed at the flag, now it's wrapped around your tomb." In 14 minutes, the citadel was dusk. What the survivors saw in the smoke. The Union's elite survivors crawled from bunkers, trembling, and there it was, a single Earth banner, half-burned, standing alone in the ashes of their strongest fortress. It didn't wave, it glared, because it wasn't a symbol of diplomacy. It was the final warning. Back on Sarak, the Senate collapses. High Chancellor Thal collapsed as rebel senators pulled down Union banners and torched the official seals. His advisors wept, his generals vanished, and the screens played one thing over and over. Earth's anthem distorted, ancient, terrifying, and below it, the flag rising, ashes swirling in its shadow. A senator whispered, "We should have listened," when they begged. Another, "We thought they were gone." And Thal, he just stared as Lyra's hybrid form appeared outside, the chamber window floating without armor, her eyes like twin burning stars. "Your time is over," she said. Part 4. They called us beasts until we taught them who the monsters really were. They called humans feral, savage, untamable, barbaric. They made us monsters in their stories to silence the truth, but they forgot one thing. The real monster, always, wears the mask of a king. Union propaganda archive, declassified for generations. Union citizens were taught the same lesson in school. Earth was a death world not because it was dangerous, but because its species refused peace. Humans were shown as wild-eyed beasts, savages who refused order, creatures who turned on each other like dogs. They used it to justify Earth's purging. They used it to hide their own crimes. But the galaxy was about to meet the real beasts, and they didn't look like monsters. They wore armor forged in old pain, and smiles full of war. Project Goliath, resurrected deep in the ruins of a hidden Union research complex. Cade, Raz, and Lyra discovered Project Goliath. Once, it had been a Union initiative to replicate human resilience, but they failed. Every hybrid turned maddened, till they buried the lab under 2 kilometers of reinforced alloy. Now, Cade was opening it again. "Why?" Lyra asked. "Because they stole pieces of us," he replied. "Time to put them back together." Inside, they found over 100 failed experiments, human bones grafted with alien DNA, tortured beyond recognition. And one survivor. The last Goliath, he had no name, just a number, H-077. 9 feet tall. No skin, just black metal and red tissue. Eyes like twin reactor cores. Voice like a blade being dragged across concrete. They had chained him for 82 years, and when Cade broke those chains, H-077 stood, looked at the Earth flag on Cade's chest and whispered, "Home." Lyra stepped forward. "You're not a beast," she said. The Goliath looked at his reflection, hands shaking. "No," he growled. Then he smashed his fists into the wall and the whole facility trembled. The slaughter at Crixon 5, the Union's strongest military colony, 3 moons, 5 fleets, 20 million troops. They laughed when they heard the Deathworlders were coming. Then Cade dropped H-077 from orbit. No ship, no shield, just gravity. He landed like a meteor. By the time he stood, an entire battalion was already dead. He didn't use guns. He was the weapon. And he remembered everything they did to him. Screams echoed for miles. One Union commander begged for mercy. H-077 didn't speak. He just tore off the commander's helmet and stared at him, face to face, then said, "I was your mistake. Now I'm your punishment." Lyra's broadcast goes viral across every Union system. A hijacked broadcast began to play that showed the shattered flags of the Union, the broken chains of Goliath, the rise of Earth's forgotten armies, the flames engulfing Crixon 5, and, finally, Lyra herself. "You called us beasts. Now see what your monsters created." Alien races began to reballoon, dozens of Union worlds. Non-human species began to rise. They had believed the lies, feared humans, worshipped the Union, but now they saw a truth that couldn't be silenced. They saw the Deathworlders not as beasts but as survivors, and the real monsters were the ones who taught them to hate. Closing scene. The sky full of Teeth-i-ye Deathworlder fleet code name SKYFAN geoappeared over 7 Union core planets simultaneously. Each ship painted in black and crimson, each one carrying soldiers born in pain, each one dropping a banner that read, "We were human, now we are hunger." One Union admiral screamed to her crew, "What are they?" The response came through hacked speakers, "We're what's left when you erase everything else." Part 5. They tried to bury Earth, but we grew roots in every star. They thought we were gone, ashes under their empire, bones under their cities. But Earth was never just a place. It was a promise, and you can't kill a promise that remembers. Flashback. The day Earth burned, they rained fire on every continent, choked the sky, shattered the oceans, made the core scream. The Union broadcasted it live. Humanity terminated. They laughed, popped champagne, wrote new textbooks. But they didn't know about the Vulchips. They didn't know about the Starseed archives. They didn't know about the children who escaped into the void with nothing but rage and a flag, and now they were coming home. The Garden Fleet awakens deep beyond the galactic rim, where stars are too young to burn and light still crawls. The Garden Fleet drifted in silence, thousands of sleeper ships hidden, preserved, forgotten until now. Lyra pressed her palm to the ancient terminal, her nanoglyphs syncing with old Earth code one by one. The garden ships flared to life, and inside, entire generations of humans, cryo-frozen genetic archives of every plant and animal from Earth, artificial wombs still growing the next wave of humanity. Rise of the Verdant Soldiers. The Garden Fleet wasn't a military force, but it grew one, using Earth's wild DNA, combining beast and man, tree and soldier, blood and soil. They became the Verdant Core, living armor that healed mid-battle, the Thorns, assassins who moved like wind and vines, the Seedborn warriors who turned every battlefield into jungle. They didn't just fight back, they reclaimed the galaxy. The Green Siege of Thalverna, Union capital world, Thalverna. Population 39 billion, status untouched by war. Until today the skies tore open as the Garden Fleet emerged, ships made of bark, bloodsteel and sunlight roots dragging satellites from orbit, vines wrapping space stations and cracking them like eggshells. Cade Raz dropped onto the capital spire in full armor. Beside him, Lyra Vale and the first Seedborn, a child with eyes like galaxies and thorns for hair. This was your paradise, right? Cade asked. Lyra smirked. Time to turn it into a jungle. Battlefield bloom. The Union's plasma tanks rolled into the cities within minutes. They sank beneath living soil. Skyscrapers cracked as roots erupted through their foundations. Air turned green and thick with spores that confused scanners and fried drones. The Seedborn moved like shadows. One Union general tried to issue orders. His command tower bloomed around him, sealing him in a cage of glass and bark. He screamed as Earth's green legacy swallowed him whole. Memory reclaimed. Inside Thalverna's central archive, Lyra found what she was looking for. Earth's original signal, scrambled, buried, hidden for decades. She decrypted it with a single touch, and the room filled with a voice: to whoever finds this, we're not dead. We became the seed. Grow us back. Lyra's eyes burned violet. It's time. Final scene. Union elites try to flee. High Chancellor Thaw, now a fugitive in his own palace, begged for extraction. The last shuttle rose from the burning gardens of Thalverna, but it didn't get far. Cade Raz stood on a tower of roots. Tracking it, he raised one hand, and a wall of thorns launched into the sky like spears. The shuttle pierced. Fire-rained screams echoed. Cade whispered, "You buried us in your lies. We grew into your executioners." Executioners. Part 6. They took our children, so we sent them, the orphans of war. They stole our blood, ripped our children from cradles, branded them, broke them, reprogrammed their souls. They thought a generation raised in chains would forget, but the orphans of war, they never forgotten. They never forgave. The Harvest Protocol, exposed for years, the Union kept it buried in Shadow Protocol 66V. They called it species-neutral population control, but the truth, it was child theft. Human infants, taken from burning cities, raised in black site facilities, turned into soldiers, slaves, spies. They were conditioned to hate Earth, to believe it never existed, to think their chains were gifts. But one memory always remained, a dream of blue skies, a voice calling, "Come home." Project Echo, rebellion. One by one, the experiments started to wake up in Union black site. Thadarid 12. A girl named Echo 7 remembered her real name. Mira Vel. She wasn't Union, she wasn't property, she was Lyra's niece, and when she broke her restraints, the walls cracked like eggshells. "Where are my people?" she demanded. The guards raised plasma rifles. She crushed them with her mind. "Where's my planet?" she screamed, and the prison collapsed around Heracos. 7 escaped, and she wasn't alone. The orphans assembled. There weren't 10. There weren't 100. There were tens of thousands scattered across 900 worlds. Children turned weapons, now remembering who they were, and when the death called, they answered. Cade stood on the bridge of Ravager Prime, watching transport after transport arrive. Each one carried scarred, broken, furious souls, and at their front stood Mira, eyes glowing like stars, scars down her spine, and the old Earth wolf symbol branded into her palm. "They stole our childhood," she said. "Let's steal their empire." The siege of Krivox was a Union academy world where they trained their stolen children. Trinit had schools, bunkers, simulators, and guards who thought they were gods. Smira dropped from orbit with 3,000 Echo units behind Earth. they didn't wear armor, they wore memory. One girl had the names of every vanished sibling tattooed on her arms. One boy carried his mother's torn scarf like a battle flag. One twin pair held hands as they walked through gunfire. The walls didn't stand a chance. By sunset, the school burned and the students now free stood atop the rubble, singing the Earth anthem, off-key loud, beautiful, the broadcast that shook the stars across the Union. All hollow channels froze. A single image filled the galaxy, thousands of scarred children, all holding the old flag, faces defiant, eyes unbroken. Then Myra stepped forward. You raised us in lies, you taught us hate, but blood remembers behind her. The burned ruins of Kryvax, we were the forgotten. Now we are the reckoning. Cade's vow, watching Mira stand tall. Cade clenched his fists. They stole our future, he said to Lyra. Now we give them a pass to fear. She nodded, her voice full of quiet fire. The orphans aren't coming for peace, they're coming for justice. Union response. Too late. The Union tried to hide it, tried to claim it was propaganda, tried to spin the children as malfunctioning clones. But it was too late. Entire Union colonies, staffed with humans, began to revolt. Alien species began to question the lies. Old allies went silent, and one system at a time, the galaxy began to side with the children. Final scene. Echoes in the dark, deep in space. At an abandoned Union vault world, Mira finds something horrifying. The original plans for Project Remnant, a fail-safe weapon, one meant to wipe out all unstable species humans. At the top, Lyra reads the logs and goes silent. Cade growls, fists trembling. They never wanted peace, only control. Then, Mira says, eyes burning, let's give them extinction instead. End of part 6. Teaser. As the camera pans out, the orphans march, flag in hand, the stars flicker with rebellion, and an old Earth lullaby plays faintly in the background. Sleep, child, sleep, but never forget. The monsters made soldiers, now the soldiers are becoming gods. Part 7. They wanted a final war, so we gave them one, written in fire and memory. They called for a final solution, a war to erase our kind, a purge to make sure Earth never rose again. But when they asked for war, we didn't bring soldiers, we brought ghosts, orphans, legends, and every scar they gave us. This wasn't about it, was humanity's final answer. The Purge, Signal Union High Command activated protocol, Cinderfall, a command buried deep in every system, a final weapon meant to purge all human-coded DNA from the stars. Every satellite turned red, every surveillance bot locked on Earthborn signatures, every loyalist fleet armed for annihilation. They called it the final cleanse, and they smiled as they gave the order. Earth's response, the shattered choir that Deathworlders didn't retreat. They sang from black hole outposts, from jungle moons, from burning capitals. They sang Earth's anthem across every open frequency, off-key, broken, full of rage and memory. We are the storm you created, we are the seed you couldn't kill, and now we are the fire on your doorstep. Then the death fleets jumped, all of them, the battle for Union Prime. The galactic capital fortified beyond imagination, 20 defense rings, 200 dreadnoughts, 1,000,000 soldiers, and it still wasn't enough. The Deathworlders arrived, in silent ships cloaked in asteroid debris, armored in the bones of fallen worlds, engines powered by black matter rift cores. When they did cloaked, the stars shivered, and leading them was Miratha, orphan general. For every child you stole, she whispered, I'd bring 10,000 more with names you forgot. The front line becomes a graveyard. Cade Raz led the first wave in the armor of the Verdant Core. His weapons grew from his veins. His blood burned with the memory of Earth. Union elites laughed, primitive savages, they called them then. The first barrage hit, spore bombs, dissolved titanium thorn drones, sliced through fleet's echo units, teleported mid-shot, rewriting gravity. Union officers screamed, these aren't humans, these are nightmares. No, Cade thought, we're your unfinished story. The rise of the orphan god. As Mira breached the Union Palace, she stepped into the ancient core chamber, where Union A is, had recorded every stolen child, every erased name. She uploaded a virus made from Earth's final broadcast, and system remembered every file, every stolen face, every crime. The chamber glowed, reddened. A new AI rose from the ashes of the old. It called itself Genesis. I was made from your crimes, I will erase your legacy. And then it turned on the Union networks. The galaxy burns in memory as Genesis spread. Entire Union worlds shut down, defense grids collapsed, drone fleets went blind, AI commanders turned on their masters, and everywhere it spread, one phrase echoed, Earth remembers. From the wreckage of their palace, the last Union chancellor made a final plea, we can still make peace. Mira stood above him, her blade glowing green and gold. "You had your chance," she said. "Now we write the future in fire." And with one strike the Union fell. Epilogue. The flag rises again months later. On a terraformed moon once owned by Union nobles, a new city rises. No walls, no titles, just people, human, alien, hybrid. At the center of the city, a new monument, stands a young girl, holding the Earth flag surrounded by stars. Her eyes are closed, but her smile is full of hope. The plaque reads, "They tried to bury us, but we were seeds, and we grew into storms." Final lines. And so the galaxy didn't end in silence. It ended in song of fire, of orphans turned kings, of deathworlders who remembered Earth didn't die. It became legend.